Thank you. Good morning and welcome to this public briefing at the Standing Committee on Social Development. My name is Jane Wayallen Armstrong and I am MLA for Mofi Clutha Region and Chair of the Standing Committee on Social Development. I will now ask members in the room to introduce themselves, followed by those online. Thank you. Start with Sean.
Good morning. I'm Shauna Morgan, MLA for Yellowknife North.
Morning. Julian Morse, MLA for Frame Lake.
And those online?
I'm Kieran Testard. I'm the MLA for Range Lake. Apologies, I can't be there in person. My daughter's off school today, so I'm taking care of her at home.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Yakalai. I'm the member for the Decho. Thank you.
Good morning, Kate Reed, MLA for Great Slave.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, members. Today we will receive a briefing on Aurora College mandate with ECE Minister Caitlin Cleveland. Please note this meeting is being live streamed to the Assembly social media channels. I would like to remind all members and witnesses to direct all questions and comments to myself as chair and to wait to be recognized before speaking to help us have a smooth meeting. Now I will now pass it on to the Minister. Minister Cleveland, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, as Minister responsible for the Aurora College Act, I'm pleased to be here with Aurora College leadership to speak to the 2025-2028 mandate agreement and the ongoing transformation of Aurora College into a polytechnic university. Today I am joined by James Fulford, Deputy Minister, and Shannon Barnett-Aikman, Assistant Deputy Minister, both of the Department of Education, Culture and Employment, as well as Kenny Ruptash, Chairperson to Aurora College Board of Governors, and Dr. Angela James, President of Aurora College. In addition, we have with us today Nigel Woodrich, my Ministerial Special Advisor, as well as Brian A. Grabke, who is the Senior Advisor to the Deputy Minister. Madam Chair, this is a pivotal time for post-secondary education in the Northwest Territories. We're fortunate to have Mr. Kenny Ruptash as chairperson to the Aurora College Board of Governors at this time. Mr. Ruptash brings over 2 decades of private and public sector experience, including roles on the boards of financial institutions, economic development corporations, and publicly traded companies. His appointment reinforces our commitment to strong, arm's-length governance at Aurora College, and I value the regular conversations that I have with him as part of our arm's-length but collaborative relationship. The mandate agreement is a key tool that supports this relationship. Finalized in February of 2025, the mandate agreement outlines the government's shared priorities with the Board of Governors. Overarching all of our shared priorities is transformation. The shared vision to establish a quality, Northern-led polytechnic university that ensures Northerners can get the skills and training they need to get the jobs NWT employers are hiring for today and into the future. This work aligns directly with the 20th Assembly's priority to build a strong economic foundation. Post-secondary education is one of the most powerful tools to increase labor market participation and prepare Northerners for jobs of the future. Transformation is not just about institutional change, it is about building prosperity and opportunity for NWT's people and communities. Madam Chair, I welcome and deeply appreciate the interest of committee in Aurora College's transformation. Transformation is ambitious, and in the mandate agreement, we have a roadmap to deliver on it, together with the board, the president, and our partners across the territory. I'm pleased that Chairperson Ruptash and Dr. James have the opportunity to describe their work and highlight some recent milestones. And thank you, Madam Chair. I would like, through yourself, to pass to Mr. Ruptash.
Thank you, Minister Cleveland, and thank you for the committee for meeting with us here today. As most of you know, I'm recently appointed only a few weeks into the job. The mandate agreement was already in place prior to my arrival, but knowing that, I've kind of dove pretty deep with the help of Dr. James and the rest of staff on how it was arrived at, what are the key priorities and focus of the mandate agreement, and I will say that I fully subscribe and I'm bought into the initiatives and the mandate of the college here. For those who don't know, the Board of Governors was first appointed in June 2023. It's composed of 10 public members, half of whom are Indigenous, serving on 3-year terms. There's a student representative selected by student body and 2 representatives of the academic and non-academic staff, both of which are on 2-year terms. The board has a mandate to, well, as part of the mandate, the board and the institution have been looking at student housing, aging facilities. North Slave campus is probably a good example of that. And some of the course offerings that will really develop students that we feel will be highly contributing members to a northern economy and social fabric. The mandate agreement kind of sets out, at least from my perspective, a clear outline or a roadmap for the transformation. It's got milestones attached to it that'll strengthen governments for the arm's length, the trimerical structure, and advance academic and research excellence in the North. I'll turn it over to Dr. James to give the presentation, but look forward to your questions and dialogue on the mandate agreement.
Okay. Dr. James?
Sani John no healthita, nui nasti sani due. Kabidane nizon, Marcicho, Atlanta. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson and Standing Committee for having us with you today. So I'm going to go through, oops, what's happening there? Oh, is someone doing my presentation for me? Yeah? No? Okay. Excuse me. So we are, of course, as requested by the Standing Committee, we're going to be talking about the mandate agreement as well as an update on transformation. To the Standing Committee, I provided all the attachments from the presentation, but I also brought hard copies for those of you who prefer hard copies, especially since the critical path timeline was quite large for the presentation. As well, I also included our Aurora College Buzz newsletter. It's a new newsletter, and it's really informative of what's happening at Aurora College and good news stories taking place. Okay. Oh, this is not going to work. Hang on. So I'm just getting used to the little clicker here. Technological difficulties. So the mandate agreement, of course, shows the overall planning and the vision that for Aurora College, which outlines not only the successes to date, but also the challenges. So as Minister and Chairperson Ruptash indicated, it was released in February of 2025, and it really outlines the priorities for both the Minister of Education and the Board of Governors. It's a 3-year time frame from 2025 to 2028, and it really is, it's steering our organization towards the initiatives and the operations in a way that addresses both the needs of Aurora College and the public it serves. It'll also be a roadmap for the, not only for Aurora College, but also throughout the 20th Legislative Assembly. So the Aurora College mandate has 7 different priorities as they're listed in the presentation. And I'll be talking to each of them very briefly, but they include transformation to a polytechnic university, strengthening governance, improving infrastructure, academic and research excellence, learning centeredness, and enhancing connections and organizational effectiveness. The strategic plan is on the right-hand side, and the mandate, of course, is informed by the strategic plan informs the mandate, and vice versa. So I'll just get into the first priority, which is transforming to a polytechnic university. This is, of course, the overarching priority of work to be undertaken during the duration of the mandate. And it really is so very important as we examine the context of transformational change and progress towards becoming an effective, efficient, and a sustainable organization. As you'll note, the foundation, the transformation, of course, is targeted towards 2027, but we always put a little asterisk around 2027 because it all depends on the outcome of the CIQC quality assurance evaluation that will take place in the fall of 2025. The second priority is strengthening governance. And of course, Aurora College continues to implement its innovative system of governance, which is the tricameral structure, which involves the Board of Governors at the apex, the the Indigenous Knowledge Holders Council, and the Academic Council. The relationship between, of course, the Board of Governors and the Minister has evolved really to reflect standards and best practices, especially as it works toward that arm's length relationship which will support institutional success. And again, the IKHC is working along with both of the other councils to ensure and honor, that honoring and integration of Indigenous knowledge systems are within the academic and governance structure. The successes today are that the three councils have been working together over the last couple of years and progressing with the mechanisms that will allow us to take the recommendations and process them. Next one is improving the infrastructure. So success to date is that first of all, we have to, of course, address the infrastructure and challenges across the campuses, especially student housing. That's very critical. We have aging facilities and inadequate infrastructure that limit the capacity to deliver high-quality programming, particularly the North Slave campus. So the successes to date that we have had is Aurora College has contracted Collier project leaders to complete a feasibility study that will compile all the qualitative and quantitative data necessary to achieve a clear picture of future commercial development related to the North Slave campus and the student housing. And so that is a very high success point for us. And then the last four relate really to the strategic plan of Aurora College to ensure academic research excellence. Aurora College is committed to excellence by fostering a dynamic learning, teaching, and research environment. And of course, in learner-centeredness, we focus on the students and programs, very important for them, in order for the programs and services to be adaptable and flexible and meet the academic and personal goals of the students. As well, we very much believe in the priority of connections. Aurora College will establish and strengthen, of course, the partnerships with Indigenous governments, community, municipal governments, industry, GNWT, non-governmental organizations, and other academic institutions. And of course, these partnerships are really key elements in responding to local and regional needs and to labor demand. And then lastly, organizational effectiveness. We work, of course, through all these priorities for the continuous quality improvement of Aurora College to date. So in the transformation to the Polytechnique, we're increasing access to quality post-secondary educational opportunities for Northerners to foster the growth of research and that is beneficial to our Northerners and our people. And so why the Polytechnique? Of course, we know that Polytechnique institutions position themselves strategically between a college and university, but still has the study depth like universities, and learning at a Polytechnique, of course, is more career-focused, hands-on, and technical. The significant progress has been made in the transformation process, and we're moving right now towards the quality assurance process, and I'll talk a little bit about more about that in detail. But the real success that we want to say about the transformation is that the Indigenous Knowledge Holders Council is just in the process of launching their legislative framework and implementation plan, and this, of course, will be in keeping with indigenizing the policies, the programs, the practices at Aurora College. I'll continue now with the great big updated transformational critical path from 2023 to 2028. Again, it doesn't work very well on the screen, so I've provided hard copies for all the standing committee members. But I also like to refer to the next one, which is a chart, which shows it a little bit more clearly. As you can see, there's 13 items that are outlined here, and the first two have been completed. They are all around the quality assurance process. Just to let you know that the institutional self-study and the Made in the North degree have been submitted not only to the minister, but also to the, now I always get this acronym, it's a very tough acronym is CAQC, it's called Campus Alberta Quality Council. And so this is the quality assurance body that will move ahead on our evaluation. So those have all been completed and submitted in April 2025. And so we'll continue on with the rest of the items. Number 3 is Aurora College is also going towards an organizational design in keeping with other polytechnic universities across Canada. That'll be finished in June of 2025, in addition to our 5-year academic plan, which is just around the corner to be completed. The big item is number 5, which is completing the institutional quality assurance evaluation with CAQC. And that is happening this fall. And we're most likely going to be going into the Northleaf campus and the Batcha campus. I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. Then we work towards, of course, the launch of our programs. The first one, of course, is a general studies program that will be launched in person at the Fort Smith, the Batcha campus in September of 2025. But we also have a hybrid delivery, so it'll be also available online. Then we'll work towards, of course, we'll work with the GNWT on the Aurora Polytechnic funding formula. We're targeting 26-27, but of course we're working concurrently, starting that already and hope to continue working on that. As well as rebranding is right around the corner. And then number 9 is that we'll launch from the General Studies is a 2-year program that ladders into the Bachelor of Education and Bachelor of Social Work program, and that'll be launched in September of 2027. And then 10, 11, and 12, 13 will all depend on number 5. The outcomes of the quality assurance will, and when we'll do the actual 10, 11, and 12 will be dependent on that date. We're targeting 2027, but if it's done earlier, then that would be great. But all of that is, of course, working towards completing the new legislation, completing the new Aurora Polytechnic Senate, and then launching the actual Aurora Polytechnic, and then moving, and we're targeting 27, 28, but of course that'll be continually worked on with myself as well as with Aurora College and the GNWT. And then we hope to, once we receive our okay on the quality assurance, and then we hope to launch our Made in the North degree. And for many of you, the title of our Made in the North degree has been shared, and it's going to be a business administration diploma with an Indigenous leadership focus. I just want to talk a little bit about quality assurance steps. So as I said, the Aurora College institutional self-study is submitted to CAQC, so that is a check mark for one of our milestones. Same with the Made in the North paper. As I just said, it's a Bachelor of Business Administration with an Indigenous leadership focus. So that package was shared with CAQC. Right now, what we're doing at Aurora College, in order to prepare for the fall evaluation, we're doing kind of like a preparation series of preparatory workshops. We're working with Dr. Ron Bond. He's a former CAQC chair, and he's guiding us through these kind of like dress rehearsals for the evaluation that are taking place in June. Then the actual evaluation will take place in the fall. As I said, we're scheduled to be visiting the Northleaf campus in Yellowknife as well as the Batcha campus in Fort Smith. Last slide here is that, and then of course we're working with ECE towards a sustainable funding plan for the Aurora Polytechnic. As I've shared in earlier presentations, is that the 25-26 Aurora College budget development process will advance a 3-fold implementation plan further to the CLC closures, meaning that we'll work towards, we're completing the staff retention policy for all of the CLC affected employees, and all of those meetings and especially the one-on-one meetings and the decisions by the affected employees have been completed. So now what we're working towards is all the asset managements in terms of the mobile assets as well as the building assets. And then, of course, monies are going to be used towards redesigning the adult upgrading program with wraparound supports. That'll take place in the 3 communities as well as online in 33 NWD communities. And then, of course, we continue to move ahead on our Aurora College mandate items. Marcy Cho, Masi, at this time, if there are any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Now I would like to ask the member if they have any questions. We'll ask 2 questions first, and then if we have more time, then we will have a second set of questions. So I'll go with Ms. Morgan first.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to each of you for making the time today to come and make your presentation. One question I have, so looking through the mandate and the different goals and the performance indicators and metrics, it looks like you're aiming to increase the amount of non-GNBT funding and increase externally supported research, both for the sort of financial sustainability of the college, but to, try to expand your reach. And my understanding is that you're trying to attract more students from outside the NWT, either from Southern Canada or international students. So can you tell me which courses or programs that you have either currently or planned are you expecting to be able to attract more students from other parts of Canada or internationally? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Dr. James, excuse me, Dr. James?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. So, of course, our focus at Aurora College is our homegrown students from the Northwest Territories, and that's how we're designing a lot of our programming with them in mind, but as well, of course, the invitation and for domestic students as well as international students to, if they wish to apply for our programs. But we really are placing an emphasis on the programs that will meet the industry needs, the employment needs of as well as the educational needs of the Northwest Territories. And so our students, especially programs, for example, like our Made in the North degree, which is a Bachelor of Business Administration, is very clear on making sure that it has an Indigenous focus, so that would be a Northwest Territories Indigenous focus. And so making decisions in that regard to ensure that it meets the needs of first of all, our own Northwest Territory students, and if there's other students that are interested, of course, we're very welcoming in terms of our doors are open for those students as well. Another area that we're really making sure is that, especially through the Indigenous Knowledge Holders Council, is that all of our programs and our courses and our practices have that integration and that infusion of indigeneity through the activities such as on the land learning or with elders, etc. So those are very important. Marcy Cho.
Okay, Ms. Morgan?
Thanks. And I mean, I certainly support a college that is oriented towards supporting NWT students. I just think that there's perhaps a mixing of goals here and there's some tension there. So given that, so what's the plan for finding significant amounts of funding that are not GNWT and increasing your externally supported research? How do you plan to do that then? Thank you.
Mr. Reptash?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think it would be inappropriate for us to answer that right now through this transition where our focus right now is on the quality assurance. But post-quality assurance, our intention is to look at program development, sustainable program development that really creates employment opportunities for our students post-graduation that contribute to the North's economic well-being and social well-being. So before we've got all that functional programming together, we do need to look at a revised funding model. And the conversation is very nuanced, and it would be inappropriate to answer that question right now, other than to say that that is a piece of the puzzle. And the funding agreement that we eventually come to with the GNWT will have contemplated highly the capacity of research and alternate funding models that contribute to the North.
Thank you. Ms. Reid, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to everyone who is attending today. So to just build on my colleague's question, and I think I heard Mr. Reptash speak a bit about the QA process that needs to happen prior to discussing program offerings in more detail. Can committee have clarity around what course offerings and program offerings will be available when that QA process is complete? Just trying to situate the fact that we obviously want our Northern students to succeed, but there is still I'd say, intense interest in this room and from some MLAs to see how we can be a leader in Indigenous governance courses. So that's an interest of mine. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reptash?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think the main focus of the college right now is providing functional programming that translates to northern development and contributing members to our both economy and social fabric. So a couple of those courses, and I'll touch on the Made in the North Bachelor of Business Administration with an Indigenous focus. We feel that they'd be highly employable with Indigenous governments, Indigenous organizations, and community organizations that would really contribute to a common understanding and a common development of those governments and municipalities and communities. We've obviously have our nursing degree. We all know that the North is perpetually looking for nurses. We've also I won't say we're deep in the development, but we've got, and maybe I'll let Angela speak, or Dr. James speak a little bit more about that. The Bachelor of Education, we all know that we need more teachers that are in the North, staying in the North. So all that to say, we are working with the GNWT, we're working with industry to see what are the needs of the territory and and what is the sustainability of those needs and how can we meaningfully contribute or develop students so that they contribute to that framework. And I'll let Dr. James add a little bit there,
Thank
please.
you. Dr. James?
And so just to talk about especially the big movements that are going forward and very exciting movements, especially with our General Studies program. As we know, that's the 2 years of undergraduate work, coursework that leads towards the bachelor's degree. So I'm really trying to make sure that the word of mouth goes through because it'll be offered in person in Fort Smith as well as virtually online. And very exciting in that after their I was just sharing with Chairperson Reptash as well as the ministers that we had a young lady at the completion ceremonies for developmental studies for the upgrading, and she was one of the new students that was going to be registered into the BACHA General Studies program, and she was just so excited about going into that program. She's a young lady that comes from Fort McPherson, and she's living in Fort Smith, and she spoke about the high level of attention that she receives from her instructors, the Indigenous aspects of the programming, the great courses that she's encountering, as well as a feeling of being at home and comfortable and confident that she's going to be continuing with her General Studies program in 2027. So, and that General Studies program, of course, ladders into our two huge programs, the Bachelor of Education and the Bachelor of Social Work, launched in 27-28, and then of course afterwards we'll be launching the as Chairperson Reptash said, the Made in the North degree, the exciting Bachelor of Business Administration with an Indigenous leadership focus. Marcy Cho.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Morris, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I think I first wanted to on the questions that have already been asked. I mean, a number of months ago, the college had a couple of different research chairs who were hired and then promptly left the institution. And I had a chance to speak with them about, what they encountered in the college, and it was a situation where the college in its current state is unable to obtain and attract research funding. And I think that tying the ability to attract research funding and researchers into the institution is kind of it's a key piece of turning the college into a proper university. I'm just curious if the board chair or president have thought through how to better the college in that regard and learn from that lesson of kind of trying to bring on the research chairs when the institution itself appeared to not really be prepared to actually utilize their work and how we're going to change that.
Thank you. Mr. Reptash?
Yeah, thanks. I'll say a few initial statements and then pass it over to Dr. James. One of the key pieces that we've identified here is infrastructure. When we're developing research and we don't have adequate or appropriate infrastructure to facilitate that research, we're not getting the best researchers and we're not retaining them on that basis. So first and foremost, and as part of the mandate agreement, we are looking at infrastructure, particularly in North Slave, but we are revisiting some of the South Slave Fort Smith infrastructures so that we are providing ourselves with the appropriate infrastructure in order to facilitate that research. Secondly, we are having those same conversations and dialogues with the researchers as they come on, what their hopes and anticipations are, and as they depart, what we heard. So we've had some of, if not the same dialogue that you've had, and I believe some of the, if not all of the mandate agreement kind of steers us in a direction where we will be trying to promote better research, trying to facilitate ongoing and sustainable research. I don't know if you want to add anything, Dr. James, but.
Very briefly.
Okay, Dr. James?
My apology. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Just very briefly is that, as you know, we have 3 research centers as well as a research division within Aurora College, and the largest one, of course, is the Western Arctic Research Institute Center, who's got a brand new Western Arctic Research building that's coming forward, and that's kind of like really the mecca of going to be attracting more research dollars to the Western Arctic, especially as it relates to permafrost studying and climate change. But as well, we're doing work in our North Slave Research Center as well as in the South Slave Research Center. South Slave Research Center is really growing, especially in terms of their new Grow NWT and their work that's going to be really developing the planting and the life of Grow NWT in that center, and they're very, very, very excited about the movement in those areas. But we continued, of course, to develop our research and invite not only researchers coming to work with Aurora College, but also partnerships with other post-secondary institutes, and as well as always accessing the tricameral, the tri-agency funding for NSERC, Canadian health research, as well as social sciences and humanities research. And those bring in quite a number of dollars into the Aurora College research units. Marcy.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Morris, do you have a second question?
Yep. Thanks. Well, I have a number of questions, but I'll stick on this thread for now. My understanding from talking with some researchers is one of the issues that Aurora College has been having is that it effectively operates like a pseudo-government department as opposed to an independent university, and that was one of the reasons researchers weren't able to get big research grants from NSERC, or at least that's what I was told. And so I'm just curious, I mean, it seems to me like I assume that, or the idea of Aurora College being fully independent from government, you know, I look at the timeline, it's listed as 27, 28, and maybe that'll be the time when that kind of thing. But I guess I'm just wondering if you're contemplating that problem and that issue. I mean, I noticed when you did a press release quite recently that the college was sort of providing its own research grants, like small research grants to staff, you know, in the amount of about $10,000. But the thing is that, you know, for the college to attract real research funding from the South, you know, in the amount of millions of dollars, like is being done by some independent researchers in the NWT, by Hoti Seda in the Clecho region. You know, the college will have to not be effectively a government department. So I'm just curious how you're contemplating that and how we can get researchers, you know, bringing in big dollars into the NWT. And I'm curious to know sort of how the college plans to establish itself as a research university, knowing that this is one of the keys to bringing in outside funding, like Emily Morgan had alluded to.
Mr. Ruptash?
Yeah, thanks. I think if you look in the shared strategic priorities, that is one of our major focuses. But it doesn't. It can't stand alone. There are interwoven dependencies between these shared priorities. So while we say that the transition in 27 will be the separable moment where we establish ourselves as a polytechnic, there's a lot that leads up to that. And through our partnerships with with other universities and institutions, that's where we're starting to develop new research priorities and develop, I'll call it research governance is probably the wrong term to use, but to attract that sustainable national presence for research funds.
Thank you. Mr. Tester, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So I am too somewhat concerned about kind of the transition, the culture transition at Aurora College to an arm's length and fully independent organization, because we have seen, well, my colleague just spoke about that. So I want to point to a media interview that was done by the former chair, Mr. Handley, or Dr. Handley, I believe, where he seemed to indicate there was significant disagreement with the minister, with this minister, on the direction of the college. And I'm hoping the minister can shed light on those comments, because what was reported publicly was there was Mr. Hanley was kind of going his own way and making way for different leadership, but he had a very different things to say during his exit interview, so to speak. So can the minister explain where that disagreement is? Because what's being suggested is that there was a difference of opinion in the direction of the college, and the former chair was asked to leave. Thank you.
Minister Cleveland.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, one of the common requests that I hear from this room and from Northerners is, where is the college going? What is the vision of the board? And it is unfair of me to speak as minister for a chair and a board of governors as to what their vision for transformation is and how they intend to get there. I want to be very respectful of that arm's length relationship. And so my request of the board is that they share their vision for Aurora College with Northerners and with the people in this room who represent their constituents. And so I believe sharing that vision is incredibly important. And what I will say is that I'm very excited to work with Chair Ruptash, not only for the energy that he brings to the role, but also the experience he brings to the role. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Ruptash?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for the question, MLA Testart. So I've been in the role for about 3 weeks now. As I've been saying, drinking from the fire hose of everything Aurora College. I've sat through multiple committee meetings, had the chance to meet every one of the board members. And what I will say about the board is they are very cohesive. They all seem to be, or I won't even say seem to be, they all present themselves. We are all aligned on what the strategic goals and priorities of the transformation or the college are right now. They all directly align with the mandate agreement that has recently been released. And I can't speak to the previous leadership of the board, but I can say that this board is fully committed to the transition and committed to every item in the shared strategic priorities and the areas of teaching and research specialization within the mandate agreement.
Thank you. Mrs. Tester, do you have another question?
Yes. Well, I appreciate that things are I have confidence in you, Mr. Ruptash, and I think that the goals are always the same. No one is questioning the goals of transitioning to or your commitment, the institution's commitment. It's just that culture shift is so important, and we're seeing the kind of talking points or communications around where Aurora College is going is good. No one questions that, but then we're hearing the stories of research chairs resigning, of board chairs being asked to leave. That's the concern. So if I didn't bring that up, I wouldn't be doing my job. But it does seem like we are still in a situation where there is a lot of influence coming from the government onto this institution, and it is still very, very vulnerable to government funding, for example. So those, I mean, you've given your assurances that that's not the case, but that is the perception, and we keep seeing these things. So I hope we see less of them going forward. And then I guess on the comment around funding, or the concern around funding, you build a new institution for Northerners, certainly, but you fund it with foreign students or students out of jurisdiction. That's the model of a successful private institution. If you're following the news, that's what's going on in the States right now with the Harvard, right? Like that, if they lose their international students, they won't be able to subsidize education for American students. So it's the same thing here. If we're going to build a successful institution, it has to have programs that are attractive to international students and other Canadian students to subsidize the cost to Northerners. So I don't see, it's not a kind of split personality thing here. It's all one objective. So can you reassure us that that is where you are headed? Because if we are trying to do kind of, if we're still primarily, we should be focused on degrees people want to take, students want to take, not Northern education, right? If you just do the thing that makes it attractive to students, then that'll take care of everything. So can you just clarify that is the direction you are in fact headed? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Reptash?
Yeah, I'm not sure you can see if I'm nodding my head there. Obviously, our number one priority is the students. We want to create an environment that students want to be in, that facilitates their growth or transition into the workforce. And if we can retain them in the North, that's more than a bonus. So again, we're working with industry, we're working with government to see what are the priorities and the needs of the territory, and adjusting our educational offerings to those needs. I just want to kind of address the point of government funding. All institutions internationally, at least in North America, and I've done a bit of, I'll say I've done some extensive research on the funding models, but they are threefold. They are tuition-based, they are government-based, and they are research-based. And the percentages of each of those vary within each college. Some of the international attention you're seeing with respect to Harvard, and it's a number of schools, isn't just tuition-based, but that contributes mostly to the tuition component. The research component, we're at an advantage here in the North because we've got access to lands that you can't find anywhere else, and research that you can't conduct anywhere else. So again, back to an earlier statement, I think it's inappropriate to discuss the funding formula right now. We need to actually look at the views and the strategic positioning of the college during the transition or post-transition, once we get through the QA process with the Alberta governance body. All that to say, the priority of the college is the students. It's going to be about the students, and it should be about the students moving forward. So as long as we recognize that both from the government's perspective and the institution's perspective, that arm's length shouldn't matter. We should be focused on the students and their educational outcomes and that contribution to the territory.
Okay. Thank you. I do have a question too myself. Okay, so you've been talking about ongoing transformation of Aurora College into Polytechnic for quite some time. And we heard lots from the Aurora College and from ECE. And I know that, okay, so the focus is on transformation. And we've been talking about decolonization, decolonizing Indigenous government, giving them the power and the control back. You know, I mean, we know that that's very important. So, and we just lived down the road, you know, in Pacheco. I just want to ask the college if there was any dialogue or any, like if there, because you mentioned strengthening the working relationship, and that's part of the, you know, decolonizations, strengthening the working relationship with the Indigenous government, because we know that there is an infrastructure there. Once a new or super school is built, we know it's going to go ahead. We know, you know, I mean, it's, you know, we're not letting that subject drop. So we have the Chief Jimmy Bruno School, and a lot of people have been asking in my region. That's a good training place, and a good opportunity for training, trades, for post-secondary program. We have the residence program. I know there's a lot of things that needs to be done to upgrade the code, you know. We have the trades, we have the shops there too. We have the garage, we have, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of things. There's a lot of opportunities. So I just wanted to ask the Aurora College or if there was any conversations or are you guys working with the Klitschko government or community government about transforming the Chief Jimmy Bruno School into Polytechnique? Because you've been talking about arm's length, so I just wanted to know if there was any conversations. It's only an hour away. It's doable. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Raptash?
Yep, thanks for the question. I'm not a person, if you know me, who doesn't answer a question directly, but I will say that we are prioritizing students and educational outcomes. There's a nuanced relationship between classroom, online, and class size to instructor, and the ratios that we're seeing right now, we're not meeting. Our priority in the development or transition to the college or to the university polytechnic is going to be the educational outcomes of students. I'm not saying that we have reviewed Jimmy Bruno as an option, but I'm not saying we've discounted it. We certainly have not. Those conversations, that dialogue have not advanced sufficiently to answer that question appropriately. But what I can say is all options are on the table when it comes to infrastructure. We are quite literally looking at every possible avenue, but with a focus on educational outcomes.
Oh, okay, Dr. Jakes?
And as well, just as well, we're continuing the dialogue, the conversations with other Indigenous governments. We're going to be having regular meetings with the Klitschko government in order to ensure that our programming match the needs of the students in that region, as well in traveling up to the Nunavut campus, conversations with the Beaufort Indigenous governments, the IRC, and also the Gwich'in Tribal Council. Both have really amazing language programs that are right around the corner, and partnering with them to see if there's possibilities in those areas, and continuing to, of course, advance with the other Indigenous governments to see where their students' needs are in order to see how we can move ahead in terms of programming and increasing enrollment through our relations with the Indigenous governments. Marcy Cho.
Thank you. The infrastructure, we have the infrastructure there, and I'm glad that you guys are focusing on the outcome, the educational outcome. And students are the priority. And we've been saying that for so long, and then I know ECE are making efforts. I know there's some efforts being made. So the student outcome is the most important, because so that way, that's why you're changing some stuff here that, you know, as you went along with in your presentations. Launch Made in the North degree program and Indigenous leadership focus. That's good. I like that. You know, it is good, you know. But I want to ask, if this is affiliated with other post-secondary down south, if a student want to pursue higher education to take graduate or PhD, can the students transfer credits from the North, Made in the North degree program? Thank you. Mr. Raptash.
So as Dr. James outlined in the presentation, effectively we have taken the Made in the North degree to a white paper. We've kind of conceptualized what it will look like. The transfer of accreditation to another institution will be a priority, but we're not that far down the path where we can say what it would be attributed to and how we would attribute it. We're working closely with the Indigenous Knowledge Holders Council to establish what indigenization can take place for the programming and how that would be applicable to not just the NWT Indigenous governments and organizations, but outside of the NWT as well. We want this to be traversable degree across Canada.
Okay. Thank you. Well, fall 2028 is still a long time. Well, it's not a long time. It's, 3 years, but and then it's good. There's still time for engagement. So I want to go back to Ms. Reed because she only asked one question in the first round. If she has a second question that she would like to continue.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I do apologize for that. Mr. Morris, you have a second set of questions?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's similar to the last questions, but maybe turning to a different area, and that is, you were talking about facilities. I'm curious, again, similar to the research question, what the college is doing to prepare itself to be able to receive outside funding. Because I think this kind of college as pseudo-government department problem extends to that as well, where the college, if it's a government department, can't receive philanthropic funding, the kind of funding that universities, you typically see them using to build facilities. For example, Nunavut just announced that they got $50 million from the MasterCard Foundation. So I've made statements in the House about how I feel that our college is missing out on big opportunities that are out there to get funding for facilities. So again, can you describe what the college is doing to better prepare itself for going out and getting funding from the feds, from philanthropy, to help move forward our facility needs? Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Reptash.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think a critical piece, and we all need to acknowledge a very critical piece to this transition is the new funding formula. That funding formula establishes requirements for the college itself, but where that funding is going to be coming from, and I believe will be the differentiator or the transitional piece between where we're at now and where we're moving to, and through the establishment of that. And I think it's important to note that it needs to be co-developed with the department and the college so that we're both on the same page. That process can't wait until we've established a polytechnic. But that process has not started, at least on our behalf yet. I think we're in some infancy stages of what the funding model will look like. But through the development of that, there will be a serious contemplation on research dollars and external grant money for the development of potentially functional programming.
Okay. Dr. James?
And just to add to what Chairperson Reptash is saying is, of course, that's one of the major items that's in the mandate agreement, of course, is to improve infrastructure. And so not only to, of course, do the research in terms of private as well as alumni as well as intergovernmental as well as governmental research. That's something that we'll be moving ahead on. But even more importantly is that you need a cohesive plan, and so by the Aurora College moving ahead and contracting Colliers to do a feasibility study, we'll have all of the qualitative and quantitative data in the feasibility study in order to move ahead and make really good decisions with governments, with Indigenous governments, with federal governments, or with philanthropic, or wherever it is that the possibilities lie. So that step needs to take place in order to have that cohesiveness in our approach towards all sorts of funding that could enhance infrastructure at Aurora College. Marcy Jo.
Mr. Morris?
Thank you. Yeah, and just a follow-up comment on the answer to that question. I mean, I think the point that the chair was raising about, getting programming into the Clecho region, I mean, I think diversification is going to have to be one of the keys for Aurora College, and partnering with Indigenous governments. I think the TG is probably well positioned to bring in funding that the GNWT may not be able to on its own, and have kind of Clecho specific programming happening in partnership with the government. So that's an opportunity that the college is not currently grasping, and I think would be really powerful in terms of developing the regions outside of the campus centers. My next question is about the institutional quality insurance. So I'm curious about what this is going to look like, because I mean, I don't think that the college as of September 2025 is going to be considered, a ready-to-go university. And so can you help me understand what that quality assurance evaluation is going to do for us or help us do? Is is it about certifying that the college is ready to be a university or is already, or is there kind of more to it than that? And is this something that you can fail and learn from, or is it kind of more advice? Can you just help me better understand what that evaluation is going to do?
Mr. Reptash?
Yeah, thanks. Just initially to the funding piece and the Indigenous access to capital that, I mean, even GNWT doesn't have access to some of the funding arrangements that Indigenous governments do. I'm 3 weeks into the job. I mean, you know me well enough that I will go establish those relationships, have that dialogue, and figure out what the best needs of not only the North, not only the college, but the community are. And where those align, there's a clear path to educational outcomes that may be or may not be funded. But regardless, the students will be the priority. And if those students can meaningfully contribute to that government or that community, then I think that's the path we'll go down.
May I answer that piece before he goes on to the next one? Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to add into that before we go off of the third-party funding piece. There's nothing in the legislation within the GNWT side that prohibits Aurora College from being able to access third-party funding, just so that the member knows that that legislative piece is not a barrier at this point. Sorry.
Thank you.
No.
Continue, Mr.
Sorry, I probably should have clarified that from the beginning on the legislation, please. I think it's more the perception that you're alluding to, that why there's a bit of a reluctance to contribute third-party funding. So leaving that and moving on to the QA process, I will turn it over to Dr. James, but I will say it is a fluid process. There is no pass or fail. There is some modifications that need to be made or potentially need to be made. But it's a full comprehensive review on staffing and facilities and how you conduct university or college operations that inform this. It's not just the Made in the North degree. There's a number of areas that the Quality Assurance Board will look at. And I'll turn it over to Dr. James for a little bit more detail.
And so, thank you.
Dr. James?
Excuse me.
Sorry, I keep doing that.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. And so it's actually quite exciting because it's right around the corner. And so what it is it's an organizational evaluation. And so it's of course, designed by CAQC. They've when indeed we had to do our institutional self-study, was in all the different areas. Chairperson Reptash included some of them, such as our overall organization, our financial situations, our IT systems, our coursework, our infrastructure, and all different areas of the college will be evaluated. Right now, we'll be going through a kind of like a dress rehearsal, a preparatory evaluation with Dr. Ron Bond. That's going to be happening, it's next week, so it'll be happening with the Fort Smith leadership team and as well with the Yellowknife leadership team. And then just going through all the possible scenarios and role-playing and questions that will come forward from the actual evaluation reviewers when they come here in the fall. And so that'll take place in June. And then when they do actually do the evaluation, of course, it'll be on all aspects, as I said, of the evaluation, but there'll be 3 possible outcomes that we know that'll coming our way. Number 1 will be, no, you're not ready to become a Polytechnic University. Yes, you're ready to become a Polytechnic University, have at her. Or yes, you're ready, but there's some areas where there are outstanding items or conditions. And so we're going to be expecting the latter, where indeed there's probably some outstanding items or some conditions, but all of those will have timelines on them for us to move ahead and to respond to those either outstanding items or the conditions that let us know that we're not yet quite ready to become a Polytechnic, but here are the steps that are necessary to pay attention to in order to move ahead. Marcy.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Morgan, do you have a second set of questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So reading through the strategies and the mandate, it seems that the emphasis is on these programs and courses being offered in campus communities and then online learning to try to reach communities outside those campus communities. But we've heard loud and clear from members from smaller communities and also, contacts and Indigenous governments working in those communities that if we're going to be most successful in training people in practical skills and employment readiness and trades that often the courses that are based in communities are the most effective, especially if we're talking about people that we're not sort of taking them right out of high school, you know, they may be out of school for quite some time, but needing or wanting retraining for all kinds of opportunities for work that is needed in communities. So, for example, I know in the past, and maybe currently as well, I'm not totally sure of the status, but Aurora College would go into communities and offer, for example, housing maintainer courses, because, you know, obviously those are extremely useful skills. We need those people more than ever in communities to be able to maintain, but also sort of repair, even build new houses, just as an example. And I'm hearing from people in communities that they're trying to set up courses like that and having a hard time getting interest or partnership from Aurora College, having a hard time getting those kind of courses in communities across the territory. So I'm wondering, do you have a strategic approach or plan to continue or reinstate or increase, hopefully, these sort of hands-on, skill-based courses and programs in communities, even if it's not, you know, a credential-based full program, but at least the entry-level things that can get people to the next step and the next step, and maybe they would go one day to take a course at the Bachelor campus, or maybe not, but they would at least have more skills to be able to work in their communities when opportunities arise. So I'm wondering, what is your strategy or plan in that regard? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Reptash.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for the question. I think to start it off, I'll say that there is a substantial amount of evidence indicating that student-to-student interactions in a classroom are just as important, if not more important, than the student-to-teacher interactions. You don't know what you don't know, and a question asked by a peer may prompt or facilitate other learnings that you weren't expecting. So the course deliveries or program deliveries in communities or in areas where we don't have that student-to-student, we're looking at ways that we can facilitate those courses and have those course offerings with the student-to-student interaction, so that the educational outcomes of the students are prioritized and not just forced, if that's a good way to explain it. The delivery model of in small communities is currently being revisited on the heels of the closure of the CLCs. So we are actively, and I don't think I'm saying too much, but we are developing alternate course offerings and delivery for the communities. And I shouldn't just say the communities, because Yellowknife is a community as well. If we've got one student in Yellowknife, one student in Hay River, one student in Fort Smith, we feel as a college it's more appropriate to have those three students working under the same cohort. And if there's an online offering that we can consolidate them prior to the practical experience, our intention would be to deliver the programming that way. So all that to say, we are looking at alternate delivery models that facilitate student outcomes.
Dr. James?
Also, another model that we're working with is through our trades program and the trades awareness program, and going into the communities, especially in the South Slave community as well as in the Beaufort Delta, to have the whole group of high school students that come and experience trades in all its different colors and shades and types, and it's a really, really popular program. And of course it puts ideas in the heads of young people of maybe I want to go into that trade or that trade, because it is quite an array of different trades that happen. And so that's an effective a program that allows us to reach young people and help them make decisions of what they want to do perhaps in their lives, as well as the personal support workers. Another one, that one's online and it's just being run in 24-25. It's completed, but it just shows the capableness of all of these. They're all Indigenous women. They're all up and down the valley, and they're in 19 different communities, and they're taking online learning, and they're being successful, and they're walking across the stage with their personal support worker certificates as a result of being in their community and having that support through online learning and being successful with that type of learning while they stay in their communities. So that's another successful foray into communities. Marcy.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Morgan, do you have a second question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do think that we need to further challenge the idea that the online learning is going to work for everyone. I can appreciate it can work for some, and that it can be more efficient and convenient from the college's perspective to run things together online. But there's, I would argue, likely a much larger group that it doesn't work for. And then especially if it's the entry into perhaps further skill building or training or trades. I mean, what we're hearing loud and clear from communities is that approach is not going to work. So I guess I would challenge you to say, okay, what else have you got in terms of other tools in the toolkit to reach those people? I just wanted to ask one more question though, which is, I know that some of the community learning center facilities in communities are still owned by Aurora College. I know some have belonged to communities or belong to GNWT, but there are some facilities that are still owned by Aurora College. And now that the community learning centers have been shut down, is there a plan for what Aurora College is going to use those facilities for in communities? Like, are you going to retain the infrastructure? Are you going to sell them to communities or rent them out? Or is there an intention to continue using them for some kind of college programs or courses? I'm just wondering if you know yet what the plan is. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister Cleveland?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So the community learning centers that are owned by the government are owned by the GNWT, not by Aurora College. And so what we're in the process of doing is working with both Indigenous governments and community governments to ascertain how each of those pieces of infrastructure are envisioned to be used by each community, and looking at it really on a case-by-case basis for each piece of infrastructure, understanding that every community is different and every vision of each community is different. So we are in the process of having those conversations with communities. Some communities have come back and have asked for, an idea of what the utility costs are, for example, in each community, in understanding what their go-forward plan might be. So those are conversations that are definitely very active right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My questions were specifically on the college-owned facilities. Is that possible?
Minister. Okay, Raptash?
Yeah, so as Dr. James alluded to in our presentation, the college is currently working on the transition of assets, be it a laptop or a building, how we work with the communities on that transition. In a lot of instances, it's more economic just to leave the laptop in the community than it is to ship it back. But we're working, as the minister said, with communities on what they envision that infrastructure to be utilized for, whether or not the ownership is retained through Aurora College or transitioned over to the community itself. We're working through that right now. I can't give you a one blanket answer for all assets, but I would say in the coming month or two, we've got a clear vision and path on that, so we can probably, well, I'm sure Ollie Williams will update you on that.
Minister Cleveland?
I just want to be very clear so that everybody understands there's no community learning center that is owned and retained by Aurora College. The community learning centers are owned by the GNWT. All of the physical infrastructure of the community learning centers in small communities is owned by infrastructure. Or leased, yeah. Yeah, and if it's a structure that was leased, as soon as that lease ends, it goes back to the original owner. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Ms. Yakalaya, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you for the presentation. Given that, the community learning centers was, the closures was unpopular with many of the regions, how do you plan on attracting students? How do you plan on attracting the number of students that you will need to make this successful? Yeah. How do you plan on doing that? Thank you.
And Georgie? Okay, Dr. James?
It's well on its way. All of the recruitment activities, the promotional activities are happening, not only print, but also by radio as well as, especially online. I just was surfing this social media and found out the invitation to communities and Indigenous governments and all of the 33 communities, if those of individuals are interested in applying for the ALBE courses, the upgrading courses, that they have a schedule, they have a list of all the programs, and so that just came out actually on Friday. So it's right around the corner and it's being designed and it's actually quite exciting. Our team of the developmental studies are upgrading team players, not only on campus, but are also working for the on-campus the schedule of these various activities and courses, but also the online options. And so it's progressing quite well. Those online options, of course, are with wraparound support services, with support people, and as well as IT support to make sure that they're successful in how they're moving ahead with the online learning. Marcy.
Thank you. Ms. Yakalaya, do you have a second set of questions?
Yes, I do. The minister mentioned that she was in conversation with the Indigenous governments, regional Indigenous governments. What supports, will the GNWT support regional governments to create their own training needs? Thank you.
Minister Cleveland?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So the outreach to both Indigenous governments and communities was on one side about the physical infrastructure itself, but also about what Indigenous governments and municipalities saw as far as their anticipated vision for the future of adult education in communities. So really quite left the conversation open. And so I've, received some outreach from some communities as far as what they would like to see and really hope to be able to make decisions on those CLC buildings in collaboration with communities in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the questions and the answers. I do have a question too as well. Further to what Ms. Morgan said, hands-on, skills-based programs and hands-on that program and then online studies is not going to work for everybody. It's only for some, But when I work at the school, a lot of our students were talking about trades program. Heavy-duty mechanic was the one that came up the most. And some did, because of the education outcome, they did not met the requirements. So, and lately, we know what's going on in all the small communities. There's not much to do for the young people. And some young people, they want to go further, but due to the outcome, they're stuck in the community, some of them. And as a result, there's a lot of social issues, a lot of social problems. We know that, So, and then, as a leader, we're trying to change that. We're focusing on the young people, on the educational outcome. And I'm glad that my colleagues both have mentioned that as well. So I know that, like I said, we have the infrastructure, Chief Junior Bruno School, and some of the small communities. Is there any plan now, like until now that, if there's any plan to have some trades program besides class, the driver's license class 3, or is there any plan in place where we can introduce other trades program in small communities? For example, like carpentry, that's doable. That can happen. And I know that millwrights was missed out with the Northern College because when the mine was very active, millwrights was really needed. So I know that some of our young people, they had to go to Alberta to get the millwrights certificate. So I'm just asking if there's any plans for some trades, because we've been asking for a lot of trades programs. We know that we're short in the Northwest Territories. So is there any plan coming forward, working with the Indigenous government, since, we're talking about strengthening the relationship. So if there's any plan to introduce some trades program in small communities. Part of the transformation program. Thank you. Minister?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe I'll start with specific to Chief Jimmy Bruno and then pass off to my colleague or my collaborator. I don't even know what to call you, Kenny. But in regards to trades education in small communities, especially when we're talking about our high school students, one of the things that I like to talk about the most, because it's something that we can implement and do right now, is the Schools North Apprenticeship Program. So that's a SNAP program in small communities where all we need really at the end of the day is somebody who's willing to take on a high school student. And then the Department of Education, if we have a SNAP apprentice in a community, will subsidize the hourly wage for that apprentice. That apprentice can learn or earn high school credits at the same time that they are working towards their high school diploma. And we've had students in the Northwest Territories who have completed their high school graduation and gone right into third year of their apprenticeship because they were able to do a lot of their hours during high school. And so the more that we can set that up, and the biggest piece of that is the relationship with the employer. And so if any MLA has an idea of an employer that wants to take on a SNAP apprentice, so a high school student, please let me know, because I really want the opportunity to connect that employer with a ready student, because we absolutely have the students interested in the trades. The chair is absolutely right. The other thing that we have right now in with committee is a letter that speaks to employment readiness training and also alternative high school completion paths and adult education pathways in regards to the closure of the CLCs, so kind of the go-forward plan of education, culture, and employment. And I believe I've asked for feedback from committee by Friday. And so there are some different pieces that we can really use right now within our high school education pathways to support students who want to go into trades. And with that, I'll pass over to Mr. Ruptash. For yourself, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I think we all recognize, no matter which hat you're wearing, that there's a trades deficit, not only in the north, but in Canada, really, or you could extend that to North America. The focus of the college is about program delivery right now. If it makes sense to put on a program in a specific community, we're happy to explore that. But the educational outcomes need to be in that community. We need to have the students active, willing to participate. And as far as trades, I think when people hear online learning, they automatically apply it to upgrading or some sort of desk where I'm sitting behind a screen. But what is, I think a lot of people fail to recognize is in the trades, there's a lot of classroom learning, theoretical portions of the trade that don't need to be sitting in person. While I agree with MLA Morgan, some of the outcomes are better suited for in-person, particularly in northern communities. But I would like to acknowledge that post-COVID, the online learnings have really seen a focus from colleges and trades colleges across the country. So while it used to be few colleges offering the online programming, it's most colleges offering online programming, and the outcomes of the online programming have grown substantially and seen a tremendous increase in success. So all that to say, the college is exploring all options for trades and program delivery in general, but I want to include the trades in that because I think it is largely overlooked that trades need to be in person. There is an in-person portion that needs to take place, but not all of the educational or delivery of education needs to be in person.
Dr. James?
And just to add to what both Minister and the chairperson are saying, our chairperson of our trades unit is he is a self-attested can-do attitude, and he is certainly willing to, if there are Indigenous governments or community governments who have ideas on how to partner in terms of the delivery of trades programming, he's wide open to receiving calls to make those arrangements, and has done those in the past, not only with the Trades Awareness Program, but also with IRC, GTC, Tlicho, in many different ways to build those partnerships, to deliver those trade programs, not only in Fort Smith, but elsewhere. So he's wide open to that. Marcy Cho.
Okay, Mr. Reptash.
Sorry, if I could just close with, one of my priorities over the next 2 years through this transition is to make those connections with Indigenous governments and communities to see what the priorities of those communities are, what those Indigenous governments are, and how we can facilitate those priorities. Where we share strategic alignment, we should head down that path. And if there's alternate delivery models that are community-specific, we are not opposed.
Thank you with that in mind. I understand about the SNAP, but for example, in Bichiko, we don't have no mechanical shops. The only mechanical shop that we have is with the GNWT Infrastructure Highway Department. So that's the only one that we have, and it's right next to CJBS. I'm just using that as an example, but there's no mechanical shop in Bichiko privately owned. Ms. Yakalai has one more question, so I'll go to Ms. Yakalai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Reptash. I'm glad to hear that you're open to partnerships with the regions. That's great because that's what's going to be needed since a lot of the smaller communities, not everybody's rushing out to go to university somewhere. So we need that partnerships to open the doors and to create dialogue with the regional centers to help students that want to go back to school and be successful in doing that. The other, I'm really happy to hear that. The other question I have is for the GNWT now. If the college is partnering with the regions, will the GNWT help support the regions financially to be in that partnership to help our students or people that want to go back to school and do it from the regions? Thank you.
Thank you. Minister Cleveland?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. So, Madam Chair, the letter that's currently with committee talks about funding arrangements for employment readiness and potential for alternative high school learning situations. So if we're talking about people who are looking to complete high school, who may have at some point in their high school journey had to walk away from their learning, we all know that family and life comes up, and that it's a situation or a structure that doesn't work for everybody. And so we have seen success in different alternative high school scenarios in other communities in the Northwest Territories. One of the ones that I speak frequently about on the floor of the House is the Phoenix program down in Fort Smith, who has seen a record number of people sign up this year. They had, I believe, just over 90 students sign up for Phoenix program in this previous school year. Last year, we saw 18 high school graduates from the Phoenix program, and so those types of arrangements do have funding mechanisms already available to them for education bodies across the territory, and I really look forward to hearing committee's feedback on that letter. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Yakalai, do you have one more question? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't hear anywhere in there that there was going to be support to the regions. So will the minister look at talking with the IGs and if they decide to do their own training program, will the minister help them with support for creating that? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you so much. So in addition to the pieces that I just spoke about that do include funding to the regions and funding opportunities to the regions, so for example, education bodies can tap into that magnet facility funding. We also have workforce development funding that's already available. So if there are employers out there or organizations who want to do on-the-job training type scenarios with community members, there is funding that can be that is available to both community governments, Indigenous governments, employers, non-governmental organizations across the territory. So that is funding that we do have available, and funding that I know currently our Indigenous development corporations across the territory are also looking at leveraging for some of that on-the-job training, and certainly very happy to have conversations with regions about how to tap into that funding that is already available, because certainly that is the goal. We want this funding in communities, and we want at the end of the day for employment outcomes to come from this funding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now that this, thank you for the presentation and joining us today. So this concludes the public briefing, briefing on Aurora College transformation programs. Thank you.